Hello and welcome back to HardReset's high-score shooter game tutorial in Godot. In this episode, we'll work on the player movement. Let's begin! So, for the most of our tutorials, we'll probably be using the icon.svg because it's really good as displaying very basic things. Though I do have my own icon, which I will go and... I have no idea why it's not opening. Oh, now it's opening. Cool. So I can just put it here and we can put our little Godot guy in here as a little different thing. Now, technically a good way of doing this is also creating a folder. We can call it assets and we can pull that into our assets folder, which will be useful later. But anyway, let's just go and begin creating our game. First of all, we can go into creating a root node. We can call it other. And now we can just go and search for character body 2D. So let's go into creating character body. And as you can see, this is our player, which unfortunately does not really exist anymore. So let's go and drag and drop our little player icon here. But as you can see, my quick Godot icon is actually 32 by 32 pixels, and as you can see, the difference is pretty big. This is very ugly and blurry. Of course, if you are not developing a pixel art game, which is perfectly fair, you can skip this. But if you want to make a pixel art that's actually crisp, like this one on the right, all you want to do is go into project settings. You want to scroll down into rendering textures, and the default texture filter, we want to go from linear to nearest. And with close, we can see that now our game looks beautiful. At least this particular sprite. But because I don't actually want to get this game to be this small, I'm going to improve the scale of that, and I will just scale it 4 times. So now it's basically 128 by 128, which should be roughly the same size as our typical Godot logo. Cool. We can rename this to player sprite, and we can rename the character body to player. Now you can see that character body actually has a little warning that this node has no shape, so it cannot collide or interact with other objects. And you want to add the collision shape or collision polygon as a child to define its shape. This will basically allow us to make a nice way of colliding with things, for example with walls, trees, or other enemies. So let's go here and let's click this plus button to add a child node, or we can hit Ctrl A. And I'm just going to search for collision shape 2D, like this. And as you can see, the collision shape still doesn't do anything because we want a collision shape 2D in order to actually make it work. And as you can see, and on the right we have our inspector by default. And in here we have certain things that are specific to the node we're using. So for example, for our sprite 2D, we have things like animation, offset, and all of that. But for collision shape, we have things for colliding only, like one-way collision, for example. So I'm going to go and create a new shape, and it will be just a circle shape. And we can bump up the circle. So this will be the collision of our player, which is working pretty good, I think. At least it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Now, if you don't really want this circle to be obscuring your player, you can just change the order in here. So as you can see now, the circle is behind the player, and you can of course change its color, but I actually like this blue, so I'm not going to change it. Okay, let's go and save our scene. Like that, but let's not save it in our assets folder. Instead, let's go and create a new folder. Let's call it scenes. And I will go here and also create a new folder, and I will call it player. And only here I will save player.tscn, which is for saving scenes and resources as well. The reason why I did a separate folder for player is because in the future I will put things like gun mechanics in this folder, while enemies and collisions and world will have their own separate folders. It's very important to do a nice file organization at the very beginning, so we don't get too confused later on. Okay, now let's actually make our player move, but before we do that, we need to actually make it move somewhere in our world. So let's create a new scene. Let's call it just 2D scene, so it will be a plain 2D node, and I will just call it game world, or let's call it game, or world, or whatever. And this doesn't really have to have anything inside. As you can see, this little this blue lines here indicate the size of our screen. So as you can see, if I would put my quick Godot logo, or actually the typical Godot logo here in the right bottom corner, and now we press play and we select this current scene, game scene, as current. But actually before we do that, we need to save it. So let's go into game, and now I will go further and I will create a new folder for the world. So let's go and save. So as you can see, we now have game scene. And now if we click play and select this as current, we can see that our Godot logo is indeed in right bottom corner. Okay, cool. Let's remove it. And let's instead add our player. And we can do that by not going into Control A, but actually Control Shift A, or instantiating a child scene. And as you can see here, we have a full different scenes currently in our game. We only have 2, so let's just add player. And we can move it around. Let's put it in the center. And as you can see, if we play the game, nothing really is changing. This is because our player doesn't have a script yet. So let's go and create one. We can go back into our player, and let's click this little button, attach a new or existing script to the selected node. So let's go here. And we have a path, scenes player, player.gd. Technically, you could also create a new folder for scripts, but because these are strictly related, I'm not going to do that. Now, as you can see, automatically we have a template enabled for basic movement, like gravity games being platformer, but this is not the type of game we are doing here, so let's actually ignore it, and let's just go and create a new script. And this is the most plain, the most boring, the most difficult, the most default script you could have. Now, at the very top, we have something called extends character body. This is something called a class, and this is a class that inherits stuff from like physics body, collision object, and all of that. And basically, it allows us to create things that are physics bodies and are meant to be user controlled. Now, technically, our game doesn't really need to be physics-based, but because we want to go and add collisions later on, it is good to add a character body as our main player. But how can we actually make him move, or make them move? Well, we need to make a new function that will take the player input, and based on that input, will move the player. But let's gather the input first. Let's go into our project settings, let's go into our input map. And as you can see, we don't really have any kind of actions in here. So let's create some. We can go into add new action. Now we can start creating our new actions. Now I will go and just go into move_left. I will hit enter, and this is my new action. I will go into move_right. This is also another action. And similarly, move up and move_down. Amazing. Now, as you can see, these actions are pretty useless on their own because we need to make something that actually plays them, or actually searches and waits for the player input. So in our move up, we can go into this plus icon, and now we can listen for, we can see that we have event configuration, and our Godot is listening for input. So the most typical The most typical way of creating movement is a simple WSAD keys. So let's click W. So as you can see, we have this here. Let's go into OK. And now whenever I press W, our move up input actually, let's say, enables. And I will do the same for others. So move right will be D, move left will be A, and move down will be S. Now, what's really cool about this is we don't really have to do this only for WSD. Let's also do arrow keys. So let's go into move up. Oh, sorry, we don't want to edit. We want to add a new. And I will just go, we can actually technically search for keyboard keys, or we can just go and listen for input. So I will go into up key. And I will also do the same for every single else. So move right will be right key, and move left will be left key. And additionally, we can at this very stage make a very simple pad or gamepad support. In our move left, we can go here. We can go into joypad axes. So as you can see, we have a few different axes. And basically for moving left, we want to go into joypad axis left. So left stick, which actually points into the left direction. So you can just go here. Amazing. And you can do the same. So go joypad axis, left stick right, and joystick right. We actually don't want that. We want to do the, wait a moment. We want to do a left stick first. So left stick right, like this. Move up is the left stick up. And finally, left stick down. And as you can see, we have a very, very simple gamepad support. Cool, but let's actually use that and let's make something. So first of all, we want to create a new function, and we can do that by writing func and then the name of our function. Now we could make a custom one, but Godot has few built-in functions that are very, very useful. One of them is something called physics process. I'm going to hit enter so it auto-completes it for me. And if we press and hover physics control and then click physics process, we can see that this is a built-in function that will call once every physics tick, or basically this will call every single frame. Technically, we could use process, but because our physics will relate to, well, actually physics and calculating how we interact with our environment, I would advise you to use physics process. Now in this, we want to gather every single frame or information about our direction that we are using. So let's do it. Let's go and create a new variable, and this will be named direction, and let's make it equal to. Now I'm going to do input, which basically is a default global class for anything input related. I will go and click dot. And as you can see, we have a whole lot of cool things. We can check if certain actions are pressed, or are certain actions just pressed, which is good for like shooting mechanic, for example. But what we want to do is we want to go into get vector. Now, as you can see in this get vector function, we want to have a negative x, negative y, and positive y. If we one more time press and hold control and go into get vector, we can see the built-in documentation, and we can read what this function does. So as you can see, it gets an input vector by specifying 4 actions for the positive and negative x and y axis. And as you can see, this method is useful when getting vector input, such as from joystick, directional pad, arrows, or WSAD. The vector has its length limited to 1 and has a circular dead zone, which is useful for using a vector input as a movement and also as a using joystick. So if you want to create a mobile game, you can also use it for our for joysticks as well. So we can now say which actions are actually which. So let's go back. So negative x is basically moving to the left in our x. So this will be move left. Now we want to do comma. Positive x is, well, different. It's moving right. Negative y, now this is important. I believe that in most game engines, negative y is actually going down, but in Godot, it's actually different and it's moving up. And our positive y is going to move down. Like that. Also, if you're wondering, I'm clicking tab to autocomplete what's being shown here. Now you can also change the dead zone, but I'm going to leave it as -1 for now. Okay, so how do we want to now, actually I can make it a little bit bigger. How can we want to take this information which we have and actually input it as our movement? Well, we can do velocity. And one more time, we can hover over it with control, click it, and you can see what our velocity is. The current velocity vector in pixels per second used and modified during calls to move and slide. And yeah, so amazing. And as you can see, there's a little note. A common mistake is setting this property to the desired velocity multiplied by delta, which produces a motion vector in pixels. So we actually don't really want that. So we want to just input, and we want to set our velocity as our direction, but this will only be a very small direction. We also want to have for example, our player's speed. So we can create at the top of our script a new variable. Let's call it player speed. And we can by default set it to, for example, let's say 500. And now we can multiply our direction by player speed. And with that, we also want to call one last function, which is only exclusive to character body2D. And this function is very nice. It's called move and slide, which is very funny way. But basically it means that, okay, because we're calling this function, we want to calculate our player movement, basically. Which, as you can see, if we hover over it, we can read it ourselves. But now we can just press play. I'm going to click it by using F5. And now, if I click WSAD or my arrow keys, you can see that our player is moving. Amazing. And actually, that's all for our tutorial. In the next one, the little bonus one, we'll make a player animation. This will be a 2.5 episode, basically. 2.5, because you could skip it if you want to, if you only want to add mechanics, but I will just create a very simple player animation so you guys can see how it is done. And further, we will create a new enemy type, which will also collide with our player and will kill it on sight. But yeah, this is going to be in the next episode. In this current one, all you want to do is, well, end the episode. And I want to also say that if you've been enjoying this series so far, make sure to leave a comment, like the video, and as always, good luck on your game dev journey.